The shattered pieces of a heart don't always fit back together the same way. Sometimes, they need fragments from another broken heart to become whole again. If you're enjoying this story, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more emotional journeys that remind us we're never truly alone in our pain. The rain fell in sheets against the windows of the Cornerstone Café, turning the world outside into a watercolor painting of grays and blues. Inside, the warm glow of pendant lights created islands of amber in the dimly lit space. Maya sat alone at a corner table, her coffee long gone cold, staring at the empty chair across from her. Today marked exactly 1 year since Daniel had walked out of her life, leaving nothing but a hastily written note and the engagement ring she'd worn for 8 months. She traced the rim of her mug with her finger, wondering why she'd chosen this particular cafe to commemorate her heartbreak. Perhaps because it was as far from their old haunts as possible, a place with no memories attached. A fresh wound for a stale pain. At the counter, Eli handed a customer their change, his practiced smile dropping the moment they turned away. The cafe had been his dream, their dream. His and Sophia's. Before the accident. Before the funeral. Before the crushing weight of running it alone had nearly broken him. 2 years had passed, yet some days the grief felt as fresh as the morning dew on the potted plants he meticulously cared for by the windows. His eyes drifted to the woman in the corner. She'd been there for over an hour, barely touching her coffee, looking like she was waiting for someone who would never arrive. He recognized that look. He saw it in the mirror every morning. When the last customer left, save for the woman, Eli began his closing routine. He should ask her to leave, but something in her posture, shoulders curved inward as if protecting what remained of her heart, stopped him. Instead, he brewed a fresh pot of coffee and approached her table. "Refill?" he asked, holding up the pot. "On the house." Maya looked up, startled from her reverie. The barista stood before her, coffee pot in hand, kind eyes crinkling at the corners despite the absence of a smile. She hadn't noticed him before, not really. He was tall with dark hair that curled slightly at the ends, a shadow of stubble along his jaw. But it was his eyes that caught her attention. They held a familiar sorrow. Yes. "Thank you," she managed, pushing her mug toward him. As he poured, she noticed the simple gold band on his left hand. "Married?" "Of course. The kind ones always were." "I'm closing up soon," he said, "but take your time." "Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't realize." "No rush," he assured her. "Bad day?" Maya laughed, a hollow sound. "Bad year." Eli nodded, understanding written across his features. "Those happen. Does it get easier?" The question slipped out before she could stop it. He seemed to consider this, setting the coffee pot down on the table and taking the seat across from her, the one she'd been staring at all evening. "Not easier. Different. The weight doesn't disappear, you just build stronger shoulders." Something about his words, the quiet certainty in them, made Maya's eyes fill with tears. She blinked them back, embarrassed. "I'm sorry. I don't usually unload on strangers." "I'm Eli," he said, extending his hand. "Now we're not strangers." "Maya," she replied, taking his hand briefly. It was warm and calloused. "Nice to meet you, Maya. Want to tell me about that bad year while I close up?" And somehow, in the quiet of the empty cafe with rain drumming against the windows, Maya found herself telling this man, this stranger-turned acquaintance, about Daniel. About the plans they'd made. About coming home to find his note. About the hollowness that had taken residence in her chest since then. Eli listened, really listened, as he wiped down tables and stacked chairs. When she finished, he shared his own story, about Sophia, about the drunk driver who'd taken her, about learning to run their cafe alone. About the ring he couldn't bring himself to remove. "I keep thinking I should take it off," he said, twisting the band. But then it feels like I'm giving up on her somehow. I understand, Maya said softly. I kept wearing mine for months after he left. Like if I just held on tight enough, he'd come back. Did it work? Eli asked, a sad smile playing at his lips. No. But taking it off didn't make me feel any better either. By the time they'd finished talking, the rain had stopped, and the streets glistened under the streetlights. Maya helped Eli with the last of the closing tasks, a comfortable silence between them. Same time tomorrow? Eli asked as they stood outside the café, his keys jingling in his hand. Maya hesitated. I don't usually come to this part of town. Neither do I, he said. I mean, I work here, but I don't really exist here. Not anymore. She understood what he meant. Tomorrow, then. Maya returned the next day, and the day after that. Soon, their evening conversations became the highlight of her day. They talked about everything and nothing, books they'd read, movies they'd seen, dreams they'd abandoned, and new ones they were afraid to voice. One evening, as autumn painted the trees in fiery hues, Eli closed the cafe early and suggested they take a walk through the nearby park. The air was crisp, carrying the scent of fallen leaves and wood smoke. I used to love this time of year, Maya said, her breath forming small clouds in the cool air. Daniel hated it. Said it was just a reminder that everything dies. Eli considered this. Maybe. But it's also a reminder that even in death, there's beauty. They stopped by a pond where the reflection of the sunset turned the water into liquid gold. A family of ducks glided across the surface, creating ripples that distorted the image. Sophia and I were going to start a family, Eli said suddenly. We'd been trying for a few months before the accident. Maya's heart ached for him. I'm sorry. Sometimes I wonder if it would have been easier or harder if we'd had a child. To have a piece of her still here, but also a constant reminder of what I lost. I think, Maya said carefully, that love is never wasted. Even when it hurts. Even when it ends. Eli looked at her then, really looked at her, as if seeing something new. When did you get so wise? I'm not wise, she laughed. I'm just repeating what my therapist tells me. You're seeing a therapist? Maya nodded. Started a few months ago. It helps, having someone to talk to who doesn't have a stake in your happiness. Is that why you talk to me? Eli asked, his tone light but his eyes serious. Because I don't have a stake in your happiness? No, Maya said softly. I talk to you because somehow, you make the broken pieces feel less sharp. Winter arrived with a vengeance, blanketing the city in snow and turning the Cornerstone Cafe into a haven of warmth. Maya had become a fixture there, arriving each evening as the regular customers dwindled, sometimes bringing her laptop to work while Eli closed up. On a particularly bitter December evening, Maya arrived to find the cafe empty and dark except for a single table in the center, set with candles and 2 plates covered with silver domes. What's this? She asked as Eli emerged from the kitchen, wearing a button-down shirt instead of his usual t-shirt and apron. Dinner, he said simply. I thought we could both use a proper meal for once, instead of day-old pastries and coffee. Maya felt a flutter of something in her chest, something she hadn't felt in a long time. You cooked? Don't sound so surprised, Eli laughed. I do own a cafe. A cafe known for its coffee and muffins, not its 5-star dining experience. Well, prepare to be amazed, he said, pulling out a chair for her. The meal was simple but delicious, roasted chicken with herbs, garlic mashed potatoes, and roasted vegetables. They ate by candlelight, sharing a bottle of wine, their conversation flowing as easily as it always did. This is nice, Maya said, gesturing to the table. Thank you. I wanted to do something special, Eli admitted. To mark the occasion. What occasion? It's been 6 months since you first came in here looking like the world had ended. Maya blinked in surprise. Has it really been that long? Eli nodded. 6 months of you helping me remember how to live again. I think it's been the other way around, Maya said quietly. After dinner, they cleared the dishes together, moving around the small kitchen in a dance they'd perfected over months of shared evenings. As Maya reached to put away a wine glass, her hand brushed against Eli's, and she felt that flutter again. She looked up to find him watching her, his eyes reflecting the same uncertainty she felt. They stood frozen for a moment, the air between them charged with unspoken questions. Maya, Eli began, his voice rough. The shrill ring of Maya's phone shattered the moment. She jumped, fumbling to silence it, but the caller ID made her blood run cold. Daniel. You should call him back, Eli said, his voice carefully neutral as they sat at the now cleared table, the candles burning low. Maya stared at her phone, Daniel's missed call notification glaring up at her. Why would I do that? Because you've spent a year wondering why he left. Maybe now you can get some answers. I don't need answers anymore, Maya insisted. I've moved on. Eli's eyes flicked to the phone, then back to her face. Have you? The question hung between them, heavy with implication. Had she moved on? 6 months ago, a call from Daniel would have sent her heart racing with hope. Now, it just felt like an intrusion. I thought I had, she admitted. But seeing his name, it still hurts. Eli nodded, understanding in his eyes. Of course it does. He broke your heart. What about you? Maya asked suddenly. Have you moved on? Eli's hand went to his wedding ring, twisting it unconsciously. I don't know if you ever really move on from losing someone you love. You just make room for the grief. Learn to carry it with you. And is there room for anything else? Anyone else? The question was bold, bolder than Maya had intended, but she needed to know. These feelings growing between them, were they real, or just two broken people clinging to each other in the dark? Eli was quiet for a long moment. I used to think loving someone new would be a betrayal of Sophia. That if I let someone else in, I'd be replacing her somehow. And now? Now I think. He paused, choosing his words carefully. I think the heart is more resilient than we give it credit for. It can hold old love and new love at the same time, without diminishing either. Maya's phone buzzed again, a text from Daniel this time. Asterisk we need to talk. Please, asterisk. You should call him, Eli said again, more firmly this time. If only to close that chapter properly. Maya knew he was right. Whatever was growing between them deserved a clean slate, not the shadow of her past hanging over it. Okay, she agreed. But not tonight. Tonight is ours. The next morning, Maya sat in her apartment, phone in hand, heart pounding. She'd texted Daniel to meet her at a neutral location, a park bench where they'd once fed ducks on lazy Sunday afternoons. It seemed fitting somehow, to end things where they'd once been happy. Daniel arrived looking much the same as she remembered, tall, handsome, with that slightly distracted air that had once charmed her. Now, it just seemed like evidence of his inability to be fully present. Maya, he said, sitting beside her. Thank you for meeting me. What do you want, Daniel? She asked, surprised by the steadiness in her voice. He looked taken aback by her directness. I've been doing a lot of thinking. About us. About what I threw away. And I made a mistake, he said, his voice breaking. The biggest mistake of my life. I was scared, Maya. Scared of forever. Scared of failing you. So I ran. A year ago, these words would have been everything she wanted to hear. Now, they just felt hollow. Why now? She asked. It's been a year. Daniel looked down at his hands. I tried to move on. Dated other people. But no one was you. No one made me feel the way you did. The way I did, Maya repeated. Past tense. What? You said I made you feel a certain way. Past tense. As if that feeling is gone. No, that's not what I meant. It doesn't matter what you meant, Maya said gently. What matters is that you left. When things got hard, when commitment felt real, you walked away. And I had to pick up the pieces. I know, Daniel said, reaching for her hand. And I'm so sorry. But we can fix this. Start over. Maya looked at his outstretched hand, remembering how it once felt like home. Now, it was just a hand, familiar, but no longer hers to hold. There's no starting over, Daniel. There's only moving forward. In a way, you do. The café, the recipes, the little touches that make it special, that's all Sophia. And now, it's a bit of you too. That evening, they closed the café early and sat at their favorite table by the window, watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of pink and gold. I have something for you, Eli said, reaching into his pocket. He pulled out a small box, and Maya's heart skipped a beat. Eli. It's not what you think, he said quickly, opening the box to reveal a simple silver key. It's a key to the café. I want you to have it. Not as an